To have you here, whether you're joining in person or online. We hope you'll continue to participate in whatever manner you feel most comfortable. Thank you. We'll start off now with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you again to everyone who is joining us tonight. Before we move through the agenda, I want to quickly go through registration information and our rules and standards for public meetings. Thank you. We welcome everyone, and the council's goal is to make the meetings a place where people feel safe and comfortable participating in their government. We invite everyone to help make this a welcoming space. A respectful and safe environment allows us to conduct a meeting in an orderly and efficient way. Our most basic rule is that any action that causes a disruption to our ability to conduct the meeting or any safety concern involving threats or unprotected speech are not allowed. These actions or comments may result in removal from the meeting. As a reminder of our public comment registration process, individuals may register to comment on scheduled public hearing items up until the hearing is closed. For the general comment section, we'll accept signups until 7:30 p.m. The general comment section is limited to a maximum of 1 hour and will only include commenters who register before 7:30. So if you're here to give general comments, please sign up and remember that it is possible not everyone who signs up may get to speak. This brings us to item A4, approving the work session and formal meeting minutes of October 15th, 2024, and November 12th, 2024. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Puig, a second from Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. This brings us to the public hearing section of our agenda. These are specific proposals before the council that require a public hearing. Your comments should pertain to the hearing item, and if you go off topic, we'll ask you to stop your comment. Our meeting rules apply to hearing comments as well. Please avoid disruptions or threats, or we will ask a staff member to assist you out of the meeting. Also, as a reminder, comments that include profanity, personal attacks, intimidation, or discriminatory language are not persuasive or compelling. They are not helpful in creating a respectful and safe environment. To sign up to comment on any of the hearing items, please register online or turn in a comment card to the in-person staff. We accept signups until the hearing item is closed. We will be calling the names in the order of signups. If you're on Zoom, please unmute your mic when your name is called. Each person will have 2 minutes. Please raise your hand in the room or on Zoom for staff assistance. If you're having technical issues in Zoom, our staff member, Ellie Tran, can assist you. If you reach the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. If you're unable to finish your comment, please share the rest via email, mail, or call our office. Contact information is listed at slccouncil.com. If you have a handout for the council, please notify council staff who will assist you. Our first public hearing is item B1, a grant application for the Environmental Protection Agency Brownfields Grant, and B2, a grant application for My Brother's Keeper Accelerator Communities Cohort Grant. They will be heard as one item. Before we begin taking comments, I'll turn the time over to Sylvia Richards, Council Policy Analyst, for a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The city periodically receives and applies for grants which fund some city programs. The city, each grant will receive a public hearing. This gives the council and public an opportunity to learn about the grants. First is, as you mentioned, is the Environmental Protection Agency Brownfields Grant, and if approved, it would provide asbestos remediation at the Northwest Pipeline Building site at 315 East South, 200 South, excuse me. Second is My Brother's Keeper Accelerator Communities Cohort Grant Pilot Program, and if approved, it will implement a pilot program including support and resources to increase graduation rates for boys and young men of color at East High School. Again, these are items for which the city has applied. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Taylor, please call our first public commenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have anyone registered to speak to these items.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move that the council close the public hearing and refer items B1 and B2 to a future consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Puig and the most competitive second in a while. I think I'll give it to Councilwoman Lopez Chavez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Our next item is B3. It's an ordinance for a zoning map amendment at 333 West, 700 South. Before we begin taking comments, I'll turn the time over to Brian Fulmer, Council Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a proposal to amend the zoning map for a portion of the approximately half-acre parcel at the address you mentioned in Council District 4. It is currently split zoned, or a portion of the zoning is general commercial and another portion is downtown support district. The applicant would like to rezone the general commercial portion to the downtown support district, so the entire parcel is in one zoning district.
Thank you, Brian. Taylor, please start with our first public comment. Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looks like we have one person registered to speak to this item. That will be Chris Kerrigan. Chris, you may now unmute.
I think I have the wrong comment in. I wanted to do general comment.
Thank you. We'll make that adjustment.
Sorry.
All right, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Puig and a second from Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously. Our last item is B4 for an ordinance zoning map amendment at 238 South Concord Street and 1255 West Pierpont Avenue. Before we begin taking comments, I'll turn the time over again to Brian Fulmer, Council Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
For abutting properties at 238 South Concord Street and 1255 West Pierpont Avenue in Council District 2 from their current R1 5000 or Single Family Residential Zoning District to RMF 30 or Low Density Multifamily Residential Zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have anyone registered to speak to this item.
I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan and a second from Councilmember Pui. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We're now at section C, which is potential action items. The first is an ordinance for the North Point Light Industrial Zoning Text Amendment. So I'm chair, so I can't.
I move that the council adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. All right. We are now at section D. We'll start with questions for the mayor. Mayor and Rachel, thank you for being here. Any questions? All right, we're letting you off the hook easy today. Thanks for being here. We're now at the general comment portion of our agenda. This is for the public to comment on any city business not scheduled for a public hearing. This section is limited to a maximum of 1 hour and to only those individuals who registered to speak before 7:30. Our meeting rules apply to these general comments. Please avoid disruptions or threats, or we'll ask a staff member to assist you out of the meeting. Also, as a reminder, comments that include profanity, personal attacks, intimidation, or discriminatory language are not persuasive. They are not helpful to create a respectful or safe environment. To sign up to comment, please register online or turn in a comment card to the in-person staff. We accept signups until 7:30. We will be calling the names in the order of signup. If you're on Zoom, please unmute your mic when your name is called. Each person will have 2 minutes. Please raise your hand in the room or on Zoom for staff assistance. If you're having technical issues in Zoom, our staff member, Ellie Tran, can assist you. To help make sure that as many people as possible can speak during the hour, anyone in person should feel free to come up and stand in line when you hear your name called. Please also avoid disruptions so that we can use the time for as many people to comment as possible. If you reach the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphones will be muted. If you're unable to finish your comment, please share the rest via email, mail, or call in our office. Contact information is listed at slccouncil.com. If you have a handout for the council, please notify council staff who will assist you. Taylor, you can begin with our first commenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have about 9 people registered to speak. The first will be David Waldman, followed by Susan Dawson, and then Lila. David is here in person.
You, the City Council, are the de facto stewards of our public lands. Various city departments may be tasked with shepherding this land, but you all have the oversight responsibility to protect our investment, to protect our environment, to ensure public trust is maintained. The RMP contractor has decimated the public lands in the hills north of our town. I asked the bulldozer driver if he could limit destruction to only grassy areas and avoid old growth vegetation. His response, "I have a job to do. I will do it any way I feel best. When we are done, we'll replant with seeds." I'm here to inform you, seeds do not replace 75-year-old scrub oak groves or 30-year-old patches of rabbit bush. In front of you, you have some pictures I dropped off. Picture number 1 is what the old growth rabbit bush looked like before the RMP destruction. Picture number 2 is the 25-foot wide swath of destruction that easily could have been avoided. The access road only needed to be 10 feet wide. They destroyed triple that for their convenience, just to make a spot for bulldozer overnight parking and refueling area on our land not on their easement. So basically, the city has allowed a bulldozer driver to make key decisions on how and where to cut roads in our hills. And this driver thinks he has carte blanche to willy-nilly cut roads wherever and whatever makes his job easier. But the buck stops here with you for allowing a bulldozer operator the authority to make these major decisions. You had the responsibility to ensure this project caused minimal damage. At a minimum, you should have had a horticulturist design the GPS route for the dozer cuts, or better yet, maybe the horticulturist should have been in the dozer representing the city's interests on our land. You have been conned by RNP.
Next will be Susan Dawson, followed by Lila, and then Mona M. Susan is here in person.
My name is Susan Dawson, and I am one of 14 property owners on Edge Hill Road. Chris Wharton has asked us to put together a petition for him, which I have the honor of presenting. It is signed by 100% of the property owners that are adjacent to Edge Hill Road that are not Salt Lake City Corporation. I'm not sure who I need to give that to.
Oh, sorry, over here then.
Okay, so
Here she comes.
Here this is. Thank you very much for that opportunity, and why I am standing here, I will add to the previous comment that while the turnaround at Edge Hill has been destroyed, and I recognize the city has serious budget and planning concerns, the destruction of that represents a hazard to our neighborhood. It is interfering with public safety on a number of fronts, and that problem goes on unaddressed in the interim of while the routine planning process goes. Thank you very much.
Next will be Lila, followed by Mona M, and then Chanel Hill. Lila is here in person.
Hi, I'm Lila Rosenfield. I'm a resident of District 4. And as a reminder, I speak on behalf of myself and not any organizations with which I'm affiliated. I'm speaking today to urge you to vote no on line item F1 during today's formal meeting. While the text is dense, it seems to me that this proposed amendment to Salt Lake's campaign finance law would significantly relax reporting requirements for political campaigns within our city. Furthermore, from what I can tell, the issue was never discussed in an open council meeting. Instead, councilors were provided with a written briefing that does not appear to be available to the public. The lack of transparency, coupled with the concerning language of the bill itself, is deeply problematic. At a moment where citizen trust in governing institutions is at an all-time low, I feel that this kind of activity by Utah's Blue Dot can only do harm without providing benefit to anybody but those in our city who are already powerful. At the very least, I think there needs to be more time for concerned citizens and our hometown news organizations to vet the language of the proposed amendment, or at the very least, an explanation of why this amendment wouldn't do what I think it's doing, which is freeing certain third-party, election groups from reporting requirements. I would appreciate an explanation on this matter, or a delay on the vote. Thank you very much.
Next will be Mona M, followed by Chanel Hill, and then Katie Romney. Mona, you may now unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time to speak. I appreciate the opportunity to address you. I'm not here to protest a religion. I'm questioning an alignment with the religion, Scientology, but I am here to warn you about the abuses happening behind the cloak of said religion. P. Diddy, Epstein, and Nassar are all examples of warnings that came to the council, such as yourself, and nothing happened before the abuses went out of control. Physical, mental, and sexual abuses happen behind closed doors and are being swept under a PR rug. Many organizations operate in our community under the guise of humanitarian or educational causes, but some like these have hidden agendas. The Way to Happiness, Volunteer Ministers, Dianetics, Youth for Human Rights, CCHR, which is Citizens Commission on Human Rights, Foundation for a Drug-Free World, Applied Scholastics, Narconon, and Criminon. Another part of it is they boast on their website about their purification program. The purification process, they consume high doses of niacin, 100 milligrams to 5,000 milligrams over the course of the program. Then they sweat it out in the sauna for hours at a time, along with physical exercise. It doesn't sound too harmful until you hear that this is imposed on children as young as 8 years old. They are locked in a sauna for ungodly hours with adults with no supervision. It's a recipe for disaster. None of these front groups pay into your tax system. And honestly, they're a leech and a burden to your system. I'm asking you not to align yourself with a system such as this. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Next will be Chanel Hill, followed by Katie Romney, and then Sarah Malik. Chanel is here in person.
Good evening. Utah has one of the highest rates of child abuse in the nation. 1 in 5 children are victims before the age of 18. Alarmingly, over 20% of these cases involve trusted community members from religious leaders. Religious institutions in Salt Lake City, meant to provide sanctuary, have too often shielded abusers instead of protecting and vulnerable nationally. 1 in 4 institutional abuse survivors reported their trauma occurred in a religious setting. These aren't just numbers. Their lives shattered by silence and inaction. Salt Lake City must lead with transparency and accountability. Stricter reporting laws and oversight of religious organizations are critical to ending this cycle of abuse. Let's ensure faith heals instead of harms. I've sent in a policy that I feel will hold these religious institutions in our city to both our county, our city, and hold all religious institutions, and I have not gotten a response back. At least respond back. At least tell me that you guys have received that policy. Let me know what I can do to help our community become better and these numbers come down. The children are our future.
Next will be Katie Romney, followed by Sarah Malik, and then Byron Little. Katie is here in person.
Thank you, Mayor Mendenhall, Council. Pleased to be here again tonight to talk about Edge Hill Road. As Sue mentioned, all of our neighborhood got together, almost everybody in person right before the holidays, which was super impressive, and got that petition together. So thanks for guiding us on that, Chris. I also stand with David in his comments about the hillside. I'm mostly just focused on the turnaround and just the concern. I appreciate that the access road has been abandoned, but it's still there. And so it just now is the time because spring comes and it's just going to be an open road and we need a turnaround. I also have a lot of footage from the last snowstorm of the snowplows trying to get up the street. For a second, I thought they were going to be the smaller trucks. And I'm like, oh, good, the city's now going to dispatch smaller ones and get it up there to get it cleared out. But even the truck is sliding, trying to get up there, and he has no opportunity to turn around. And so it just really needs to be addressed. So look forward to continuing working with you on that and getting ahead of it. I know you've got my emails, Chris, so thank you.
Next will be Sarah Malik, followed by Byron Little, and then Chris Kerrigan. Sarah, you may now unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Malik. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts. I'm a resident on East Michigan Avenue, and I'm here on behalf of not just myself, but my entire neighborhood. My street is really well known for a beautiful tunnel of trees. And my street is also a huge source of pride in that we host a lot of community events, including 4th of July parade and a Halloween celebration for children. I'm commenting today just to make you aware that our trees are very sick. And I'm hoping that in this comment, I can explain to you why that's a bad thing, but also talk to you about the fact that there are ongoing conversations between our neighborhood and various departments in the city government. And we would just love to have your support, your creative thinking, and any problem solving. So I hope that 3 things can happen. However we decide to help these trees thrive again, I hope that we can be creative in the ways that we do it. Even if it's a new method, let's try it. Let's try to get the trees healthy with some kind of treatment, a public-private partnership, a grant program, whatever it takes. The second thing is that I would hope we approach this with urgency because the trees have been sick for some time and it's quite sad to see them in their condition. And the third thing is that I know we want to do this in a scientific way that has careful cost-benefit analysis, but I do hope that we appreciate that perfect shouldn't be the enemy of good. So with that, I'll just say, it's very sad to see our trees in such terrible shape. I hope that with the City Council support, we can get them healthy again for the entire community to enjoy. Thank you so much.
Next will be Byron Little, followed by Chris Kerrigan, and then Ian McCubbin. Byron is here in person.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Byron Little, live at 1823 Michigan Avenue. I've lived there for over 70 years. I'm very concerned about the sycamore trees, not only on Michigan Avenue, but in the entire city. They are showing signs of stress. We've talked to your urban chief, and they are showing signs of stress. So I'm petitioning the council to see if we can work together and find a method to get a plan to get these treated and helped out so that they don't die. They will die if we don't treat them. So that's all my comments. Thank you very much for your help.
Next will be Chris Kerrigan, followed by Ian McCubbin. Chris, you may now unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can.
You can hear me? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I want to thank you very much for your time, and I also want to applaud you for doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army, so for me to see a council doing those types of things, it really brings warmth to my heart, and I want to thank you very much. I would like to also elaborate a bit about how dangerous and deadly the cult of Scientology is, and the fact that people are trying so hard to raise awareness to city council, and such as yourselves and others as well. We do these in other cities also, trying so hard to get people to listen. And when no one is answering us back or giving us any type of feedback, it almost feels like no one cares. Like no one really wants to even raise an eyebrow to it, which is devastating to us because we have watched a lot of things happen in the city of LA, in the city of Clearwater, and now they're trickling out to where I live, and I reside on the island of Long Island, New York. And to have these types of cults taking over your cities, your states, and everything else, I don't think it's really no one thinks it's the best thing in the world because of how dangerous they are. There are so many people who are unalive due to Scientology and other cults as well. We just want to raise awareness to these things, and we really would love to have people answer us back and give us their honest opinions as well. It's greatly appreciated. I want to thank you all for your time, and you just have a wonderful day, and Happy New Year.
Next will be Ian McCubbin. Ian, you may now unmute.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I'm a District 3 member, and I want to acknowledge Councilmember Wharton for all of his hard work and support of our district. I live on Northmont Way, or 18th Avenue, and I have been working for the last 8 years to bury the power lines behind my house. I've been working with the city, the state, Rocky Mountain Power, and I have to agree with everything that Dave Waldman and Katie Romney said regarding the disaster that has happened behind our homes on the city-owned property. The power lines behind my house are on city-owned property and on our property. We have been asking Rocky Mountain Power to bury those lines. We've asked the city for help. The city has failed us. In particular, public lands, the mayor's office, and public utilities. for the last 3 years, I've been on a working group with the public lands and public utilities, and they have constantly lied to me about the program that's going on currently behind our homes and also on our street, where they're tearing up our street, burying lines, but Rocky Mountain has held us to a ridiculous cost estimate. When we provided them the money that they had asked for, they doubled the estimate and then doubled it again. Rocky Mountain Power is a for-profit company owned by Berkshire Hathaway. Their employees have made it very clear that they will let utility infrastructure fail to generate profits for Berkshire Hathaway. They do not have the city's best interest or the residents or the ratepayers' interest at heart. They are for profit, and there will be a disaster like we saw up on Ensign Peak, which was a utility caused fire. All of the fires in Lahaina, in Boulder, Colorado, in Paradise, California, the most massive fires in the Western United States have been caused by utilities, power lines going down. The city needs to address this, and the city is failing the town by not addressing it properly.
That was the final registered commenter.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you to everyone who commented. This brings us to item E, which is new business, which is the nomination of council chair and vice chair for council year 2025. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we ratify the election of Councilmember Wharton as chair and Councilmember Pui as vice chair of the council.
Second.
Who seconded was Mono? Thank you. So I have a motion from Dugan and a second from Mono. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's formal. You did the job unpaid earlier, so it's formal now. All right, next is item E2, the advice and consent for Chief Human Resources Officer David Buchanan. I'll look for a motion.
And move that we approve nomination.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Wharton. I'm going to give the second to Councilwoman Young. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Item E3 is advice and consent for Director of Community and Neighborhoods Department, Tammy Hunsaker. I'll look for a motion.
Move that we confirm the nomination.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Wharton and a second from Councilwoman Lopez Chavez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Our final item in this section is item E4, a legislative action regarding height restrictions on hedges and fences.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass a legislative action that would initiate a zoning petition for city staff to research and draft an ordinance that would update Salt Lake City Code pertaining to fence and hedge heights. The amendment would include increasing the maximum allowed hedge height to 6 feet along side yard property lines in front of the primary structure's primary facade, exclusive of defined clear view standards, and increasing the maximum height of a fence, wall, or hedge located behind the primary structure's primary facade to 7 feet.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Young and a second from Councilwoman Lopez Chavez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to unfinished business. So item F1 is an ordinance on campaign finance amendments. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve these, and I just want to speak to it. I'll wait for a second.
We'll do discussion. So move for approval. Any seconds?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Wharton and a second from Councilwoman Lopez Chavez. Councilmember Wharton, discussion?
These changes that are in this statute are just housekeeping changes, so that brings the city code in line with what is already, with changes to the state law that were already made. So this just makes sure that our law doesn't conflict with the state law. And for that reason, we did have a briefing on this, and we talked about this at our work session in on December 10th. And so I would move that we move forward with this, just so that we can bring the statute into line. This is an election year for city offices, and I think it's important that we bring the code into alignment with state law as early as possible so that any candidates or anybody interested in getting involved in city elections this year knows what the law is. But I guess I understand from our city attorney it doesn't have to be passed today, but that's the reason why I think we should move forward.
Councilmember Mono?
And I just wanted to clarify, I do think the one thing, to my understanding, that is has to do with the limits for donations is not that it changed the limits, but it moved where it was written from the city ordinance to posted on the recorder's website, so that it can change according to this consumer price index, and we don't have to change an ordinance for that, but like it has always done. So that's my understanding about that other piece.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lopez Chavez?
Thank you, Chair. And I want to thank Lila, who's a resident here in District 4, and others that have texted with curiosity about this, because although it has been in a work session, I think there have been constituents that missed that and may have seen the notice as a change. So you reiterated this, Councilmember Mono, but I just want to reiterate. One, you can find on slc.gov/attorney/campaign-finance. This reporting's already up to date in Code 2.46. If you read through this, this is the updates that will also be matched on our recorder's website, which is the outdated version. And just to clarify, again, it does not change any contribution limits. It does move the specific dollar amounts out of city code and to the recorder's website, which is just a redundant comment from Councilmember Mono. And again, those older, lower limits in city code need to be updated so that we can legally comply with state code. That's all this is attempting to do. But if there's any qualms or anything, I can respect folks that would like us to discuss this further. I have no further discussion because we're only updating code to the state's legal requirement. Thank you.
Councilmember Pui?
So just, I'm thankful that our city has more stringent requirements at the state, and ultimately even more stringent requirements that pretty much every jurisdiction in the state. And we are proud of those restrictions. We are proud of, I feel like there is some discussions to some of those that I have. I would like to eventually bring about. This ordinance was brought up by the attorney's office just to clean up and ensure that our internal ordinance match with the requirement by the state. But again, I really would like to highlight where we stand as a city and our values, and that our values are still strong about transparency, about the contribution limits, which are not existent in other entities in the state. And we still have those and believe in those. So just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you. Yeah, I am really proud, and when I fundraise, I'm really frustrated because signs are expensive and it takes a lot of phone calls to earn at our giving limit those signs that you have to print. But I'm proud because I do think it's emblematic of the priorities that we share, that this office remains approachable for anyone who feels compelled to public service, and also that our constituents and people who live among us can know transparently who is giving to us and that we're not being bought by any one entity. Because it is housekeeping, it is my preference to do it today. This is our only session before the legislative session begins, and I would like to give my full attention to playing defense for the city when the legislative session begins. So I have a strong preference for us passing this tonight, even though we're not compelled. So that's my reasoning for wanting to go ahead with the vote. I am open if anyone else has conversations on timing or the desire to do more outreach.
I think just to reiterate what Councilmember Pui said is that there's desires to continue conversations of transparency, contribution limits, et cetera. But for today, so this was just discussion, but I was just finishing up to just state that my preference is that because it's housekeeping, that we vote on this tonight.
Great, so we have an active motion then and a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Our final item, F2, is a resolution for council compensation change. I'll look for a motion.
Move that the council adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Please let there be discussion and clarification on this, because this is another one that's poorly titled. So I'll take this one. This is not changing our compensation. In conformity with other entities throughout the state, we're offering stipends for the leadership requirements. They are transparently listed, and it will apply to those in leadership. I'm still bummed because I still don't think that we have created something where this office is equitably approachable in the pay, but it is what we can do given limitations outside the city, given market pressures and forces. But the compensation is only a leadership stipend. It is not a change to our base pay.
Madam Chair, I would like to, obviously, we talked ad nauseum about compensation of all different kinds last year, and we didn't get too far, but this is one of the things that did come about, those conversations, that some of the leadership positions require a ton more meetings, to the expense of your own personal lives, to the expense of your own other jobs, because we are supposed to be a part-time council that most of the time isn't. So I'm thankful to the council members that we have an ordinance to make some of these adjustments that we discuss. Again, I still think that there is more conversations to be had, and I hope that maybe this year we get to have some of those. But I'm looking forward to more of that, and thank you for bringing that about.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say that on this, that I think I've given my standpoint several times in the work session, but since we did, one of the other things that we also talked about doing is formalizing a process to look at this. I'm definitely not opposed to the stipends as a concept. I would rather just wait until we have that input. So I'm going to be voting no, but I don't oppose that. I don't disagree with what was said.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. And I appreciate the comments tonight, and I appreciate the conversations we've had over the last few months on this subject. And I too will be voting no on this change. I appreciate the leadership that we have, and I appreciate the work that they do in those positions and the extra hours that they put into it. I just don't think this is a necessary need, and I'll be voting no.
Councilwoman Young?
So I have made my positions on a lot of the conversations and ideas that we've discussed on council salary very clear in the work sessions, in terms of wanting to make sure that we're raising the waters across Salt Lake City, and not explicitly for one subgroup as to another. With that said, from the very beginning, one of the items that I thought was missing from the actual compensation structure was an opportunity to recognize that the members of leadership do have a significantly increased workload related to not just expectations for being in meetings, but that they also have an increased workload in terms of expectations and communication to the rest of us in council, so that we have the relevant opportunity to talk with our constituents about key issues ahead of some of these really key conversations and representative of that. For me, what I look at is that this is really a policy decision, and it's a policy decision that aligns our compensation structure for leadership positions in the exact same way that we see at the legislature as well as in other municipalities. And so I appreciate the opportunity to explain that in terms of my justification for voting for this particular piece. And again, recognize that it is definitely a challenging conversation to have, but I do think that this, from a policy perspective, resonates across what common practice is.
Jen Bruno?
Sorry, I just had a brief clarification for the record. It's a technicality, but just so that we're all set legally, the agenda references a resolution, but in reality, the document is an ordinance. So just clarifying for the record that what's under consideration for the council is an ordinance, and if you could make sure that the motion references ordinance, that would be great. And sorry.
Thank you, Jen. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
There's 5 in favor and 2 in the negative, being Councilmember Dugan and Councilmember Wharton. The motion passes. All right, this brings us to the consent portion of our agenda. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Mono and a second from Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously, and we stand adjourned.